Oh hiya, I'm Bruce Fummey. It's the 27th of January and I'm in my house. What do you mean, what am I doing in my house? I know, if you're wondering why I'm not out and about standing next to some historical thing, it's because I'm reading the paper. More specifically, I'm reading the Herald. Now, a Scottish person of my age, you probably still call it the Glasgow Herald. But if you were around in 1783, on this day in Scottish history, you would have seen the first ever publication of this newspaper. At that time, it was a weekly paper called the Glasgow Advertiser. And then it changed its name to the Glasgow Herald and Advertiser, and then blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. In Victorian times, this became the first ever daily newspaper in Scotland. More important than that, I would suggest that Scotland was the first ever mass literate country in the world. There you go. Yeah. I'm guessing a lot of you, given that this has been Burns Week, have been out to Burns suppers. And you probably heard, or maybe even performed, the poem Tam O'Shanter. The Tam O'Shanter was written roughly at the same time as this paper was first published. And the opening lines to the poem Tam O'Shanter say, "When chapmen billies leave the streets." Now, chapmen were the hawkers of their day. They'd stand in the marketplace selling books, Belgian lace, lotions, potions, and sports socks, 3 for £1, 3 for £1. The point I'm making is that back then, these chapmen would stand in the street selling little chap books to the unwashed masses, right? Because they could read. You see, around 200 years before this, a kind of staunch, austere, and let's be honest, slightly mental version of Protestantism had taken over in Scotland during the Scottish Reformation. And if you leave aside for a minute the horrors of the killing times, the one great benefit of the Scottish Reformation was that John Knox, trust me, you're going to hear about this guy from time to time, wanted a school in every parish. Now, in the century before the Reformation, James IV of Scotland had instituted the Education Act of 1496. And that said that nobles, property owners, landed gentry and merchants should send their eldest son to grammar schools. By the time his great-grandson, James VI of Scotland, was on the throne and John Knox was spitting fire and farting brimstone, the Schools Establishment Act was brought forward. Now get this, this was in 1616. In 1616. And the purpose was to have a school in every parish funded by a tax on the parish, so that the son of the laird and the son of a ploughman could go to school together and they could both become literate so that they could read the Bible for themselves. Now, clearly this was like a religious initiative, right? But it led to incredible literacy rates that were never heard of. And it's probably also the reason why Scotland had 5 universities at the same time that our larger and richer neighbour only had 2. Get it up, you. So by the time the British Empire was going across the world doing both the good and the bad things that it was doing, literate, educated Scots played a disproportionate role. And if you're watching in America or Canada or New Zealand, as I know some of you do, these were your ancestors, okay? If you're watching in Australia, obviously your ancestors were convicts, but leaving that aside, this high literacy rate was, I think, what led to the flowering of the Scottish Enlightenment, when great minds preferred rational reason rather than religious dogma. That's probably an unintended consequence for Knox. It's probably also why Scotsmen basically invented everything in the modern world. You know it's true. Yeah? It was a Scotsman that unified the theories of electricity and magnetism. It was a Scotsman invented the telephone, radar, the television, and now nobody reads the paper anymore because we've got far too short an attention span. That reminds me, Scott McCann was complaining on the Facebook page down below that yesterday I forgot to give you a question. Apologies. So here's the question for today. Tomorrow I intend to also mention John Knox, and I'll be filming, weather permitting, in my hometown of Perth. So the question is, where do you think I'll be filming in Perth if I'm going to mention John Knox? And stick your answers in a post update underneath on the Facebook page. I hope you've been enjoying these episodes, these little clips. Loads of people have been saying so, and thanks very much for all your support. If you like it, like the clip, share the clip, and like and share the Facebook page, Scotland History Tours, and more importantly than that, I have now set up a YouTube channel, Scotland History Tours. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell as many people as possible to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because if I get 1,000 subscribers to the channel, then apparently they'll give me a fraction of a penny every time somebody watches, so that I can maybe get together enough to pay for the props that I need to do these little clips. £1.85 for a paper. I suppose sometimes they do get some scoops. In fact, if that first ever paper got a world exclusive. You see, the American Revolutionary War had just finished, and they'd come to an agreement, a negotiated settlement in Versailles. And at just the time the news got to Glasgow was overnight as the first episode was being printed. And so this newspaper that became the Glasgow Herald was the first one ever to give the details of the agreement that had been negotiated with the Americans. Yeah. Wonder what Trump's up to. Right, Zoe, are you going to turn off the camera? Zoe? Zoe? I've got to do everything myself.